The Witch Circe. After sailing from Cyclops' island, Odysseus and his men land on the island of Aeolia. There, the Wind King, Aeolus, does Odysseus a favor. He puts all the stormy winds in a bag so that they will not harm the Ithacans. The bull's hide bag containing the winds is wedged under Odysseus' afterdeck. But during the voyage, the suspicious and curious sailors open the bag, thinking it contains treasure, and the evil winds roar up into hurricanes that blow the ships back to Aeolia. Aeolus drives them away again, and he doesn't give them another bag. So then, Odysseus and his men land on the island of the Laestrygonians, gigantic cannibals. All the ships but one are destroyed and their crews devoured. Odysseus' ship escapes and lands on Aea, the home of the witch Circe. Here a party of 23 men, led by Eurylochus, goes off to explore the island. And remember, Odysseus is still telling his story to Alcinous and his court, so he's still flashing back. So Odysseus and some men stay on the ship, while 23 men and Eurylochus go and try to check out the land. In the wild wood they found an open glade around a smooth stone house, the hall of Circe, or home of Circe. The wolves and mountain lions lay there, mild in her soft spell, fed on her drug of evil. So the wolves and the mountain lions are kind of under a spell. None would attack. Oh, it was strange, I tell you, but switching their long tails, they faced our men like hounds who look up when their master comes with tidbits or foods for them, as he will from table. So Homer is comparing the wolves and mountain lions to basically domestic dogs at home who kind of lay around and maybe look up when they see their master. The wolves and mountain lions are not vicious and by any means. Humbly, those wolves and lions with mighty paws fawned on our men who met their yellow eyes and feared them. In the entranceway they stayed or they waited to listen there. Inside her quiet house they heard the goddess Circe. Low she sang in her beguiling voice, while on her loom she wove ambrosial fabric, sheer and bright, by that craft known to the goddesses of heaven. So the men don't think much because they hear a woman singing and they see her and she's just sitting and she's weaving fabric on a loom. So I want you to think about, we also saw Calypso weaving fabric. And I want you to think about, what does that say about the women of the ancient Greek times? None would speak until Pylades, most faithful and likable of my officers, said, "Dear friends, no need for stealth or being sneaky. Here's a young weaver singing a pretty song to set the air a-tingle on these lawns and paving courts. Goddess she is or lady, shall we greet her?" So Pylades saying, "Hey, this woman's harmless. Let's go introduce ourselves. Let's go inside." So reassured, they all cried out together, and she came swiftly to the shining doors to call them in, all but Eurylochus, who feared a snare or a trap. The innocents went after her. On thrones she seated them in lounging chairs while she prepared a meal of cheese and barley in amber honey mixed with Pramnian wine, adding her own vile pinch to make them lose desire or thought of our dear fatherland. So she basically drugs their wine, similar to the way the lotus plant, where the men ate the lotus and they were drugged and they didn't have any desire to go home. Scarce had they drunk when she flew after them with her long stick and shut them in a pigsty. Bodies, voices, heads, and bristles, all swinish now, though minds were still unchanged. So she changed their bodies into pigs, but they still had human minds. So squealing in they went, and Circe tossed them acorns, mast, which is a mixture of nuts, and cornelberries, fodder or food for hogs who rut and slumber on the earth. Down to the ship, Eurylochus came running to cry alarm. Foul magic doomed his men. Remember, he didn't go with them because he feared a trap. So he runs back to the ship to tell the men what happened. But working with dry lips to speak a word, he could not, being so shaken. He was fearful. He couldn't believe what he saw. Blinding tears welled in his eyes, and foreboding filled his heart. When we were frantic questioning him, at last we heard the tale. Our friends were gone. So Odysseus leaves the ship and rushes to Circe's hall. The god Hermes stops him to give him a plant that will weaken Circe's power. Homer calls it a molly. It might have been kind of a garlic. So protected by the plant's magic, Odysseus resists Circe's sorcery. So we also see Hermes deliver a message to Odysseus from Athena when he was released from Calypso's. So now we see him again. The witch, realizing she has met her match, frees Odysseus' men. Now Circe, loveliest of all immortals, persuades Odysseus to stay with her. There Odysseus shares her meat and wine, and she restores his heart. But after many seasons of feasting and other pleasures, Odysseus and his men beg Circe to help them get home. So Odysseus and his men actually stay on Circe's island for a year, until finally they say, "I had enough, we want to go home." She responds to their pleas with the command that Odysseus alone descend to the land of the dead, or Hades, the cold homes of death and pale Persephone, queen of the underworld. There Odysseus must seek the wisdom of the blind prophet Tiresias. And Tiresias, remember, a prophet is one who can see into the future. So he's going to go to Hades, and Tiresias is going to tell him what his future holds.